Right as I'm in the middle of editing the next podcast, the news comes this weekend of Jarod Mayo getting fired by the New England Patriots right after their Week 18 game against the Buffalo Bills. It happened so quick. Like, it literally happened an hour after the game. Like, as soon as the press conference happened, the Crafts fired Jarod Mayo, and I'm shocked about that. Not in the sense that of Jarod Mayo getting fired. I'm more so just surprised that it took this quick for him to get fired. Just because it's such a breaking news and it's very significant for the Patriots right now, I want to just give my thoughts about that. I know I was talking about in the last podcast, I was talking about the Week 17 game and just all the frustrations I have with the Patriots in regards to their coaching staff. I kind of ripped into Alex Van Pelt, who actually also got fired too, and DeMarcus Covington. I believe he's going to get fired. I don't think he's necessarily gotten fired just yet. But, Alex Van Pelt's gone as well, so that's great. I assume DeMarcus Covington is no longer going to be the defensive coordinator as well. But, again, I was just ripping onto just the coaching aspect of this Patriots team because I just don't think they're talented enough. And, sure, was Jarod Mayo a good head coach? Not a chance. I'm not going to get that twisted. However, I do think the Patriots did set him up for failure. And I honestly just think that it stems down to just still we're dealing with the after effects of Bill Belichick and just the twilight years he's had control over the Patriots over this past 2 or 3 years. Because obviously a lot of people know that Jarod Mayo was handpicked to be the successor to Bill Belichick. That's been in the works for, I believe, 2 to 3 years. So pretty much when Bill Belichick was inevitably going to leave the Patriots, Jarod Mayo was going to step in and take over. So considering Jarod Mayo was the successor to one of the best, if not the best head coach of all time, and he's just been in the works for a while, just being pretty much Bill Belichick's understudy, it got a lot of fans, especially New England Patriots fans, optimistic to, Jarod Mayo being this good head coach. But in actuality, the Patriots really set him up for failure because, sure, he was the successor, but the dude is a defensive-minded head coach that has never become a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Almost every single head coach in the NFL, before they became the head coach of their respective team, they have either been an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and the occasional special teams. I guess Dan Campbell is also an exception. He was a tight ends coach, but he also was an interim head coach with the Dolphins. Zach Taylor is an exception as well because he was the quarterback's coach. Point being, most of the time, for a head coach, you're either an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, you're some sort of a coordinator position before you become a head coaching job. Jarod Mayo only coached linebackers up to this point. So it just didn't really help. It's just such a big jump coaching one specific group to becoming the main person coaching an entire team and basically being, I guess, the head of all the coaching and all the decisions on the field. So it's just a massive jump for a guy like Jarod Mayo. And along with that, again, this kind of comes down to Bill Belichick. He is probably the best head coach of all time. And at the later stages of his time with the Patriots, I wouldn't even say his philosophy is outdated because his defenses have always been great. It's just that I feel like Bill Belichick's circle around him is very limited. For example, Josh McDaniels has been the offensive coordinator for a while, and then once he left to get the Raiders job, the Patriots really struggled with trying to find another offensive coordinator because Josh McDaniels has been the offensive coordinator for so long. It was Bill O'Brien, and then when Josh McDaniels got fired by Denver after, I believe, 2 years, he stepped back in. And so, point being, Bill Belichick really relied on Josh McDaniels throughout his time with the Patriots, especially during the 3 Super Bowl run. Because once Josh McDaniels took his second chance at a head coaching job, there's been this revolving door in the offensive coordinator role. Who was the first person that started out? Actually, the first person that started out was their former defensive coordinator and Matt Patricia, who, mind you, he's the defensive coordinator. They had him calling plays as offensive coordinator. Like, I've never seen that before, and it just really shows that, I wouldn't even say like who he knows as head coaches, but more so just the people around. Like, he just has a very limited coaching circle around him. And then after Matt Patricia got fired as offensive coordinator, albeit, I mean, I don't even think Matt Patricia did that bad as offensive coordinator, considering he's a defensive coordinator at heart. But obviously that was not going to work out. And then they had Bill O'Brien come back. That didn't work out with Mac Jones. And then, yeah, that's when Bill Belichick ended his time with the Patriots. It's hard for Jarod Mayo to succeed when he has ties to Bill Belichick, when Bill Belichick doesn't have all these other external coaching sources around him, which is why also Jarod Mayo struggled, because look at who he hired as his offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. It's kind of hard for me to completely explain this. I hope people are kind of understanding this, but let me see. A prime example, I guess even Andy Reid. Like, Andy Reid had Eric Bieniemy. There we go. He was the longtime offensive coordinator. Once he left to get his job for Washington, he then moved on to Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy's doing an amazing job. It feels like because Bill Belichick didn't have a lot of coaches that he really did work with, outside of, the Bill O'Briens, Josh McDaniels, Matt Patricia's, I guess even Brian Flores's, but like just those like 4, 5, 6, 7 names that I'm kind of just like naming, it really didn't help out Jarod Mayo when he ended up becoming a head coach, because he didn't really know who he wanted to have as an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. So you end up getting guys like Alex Van Pelt, who I only feel like he was hired because they brought in Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett's had experience with Alex Van Pelt before, so that's the only reason why the Patriots and Jarod Mayo brought him in. And then DeMarcus Covington, he was with the Patriots before. I don't know exactly what it was. I want to say he was their defensive backs coach, cornerbacks coach, something to do with the secondary, but I don't have that off the top of my head. But like, Jarod Mayo was very limited as a head coach, and that's why it didn't really work out for him. But this was a move that the Patriots needed to make anyway. He wasn't going to be the solution for the Patriots. A lot of people are saying this dude didn't have the roster around him, and yeah, I totally get it. What this dude did as head coach, there's just better options out there. It honestly feels like Jarod Mayo was just this glorified interim head coach. The Patriots did not know when Bill Belichick was going to leave this team. They wanted to have a security blanket for when this decision was going to happen. And Jarod Mayo was kind of just put into the fire, and they kind of wanted to see what he had in him. That's, again, my opinion on that. It's honestly very similar to how David Culley and Lovie Smith, who were head coaches for the Texans before they hired DeMeco Ryans. David Culley was hired in 2021. I think he was like the passing game coordinator for the Ravens. Nobody would have picked him as a head coach. And yeah, he got canned first year, and then same thing with Lovie Smith, who was the defensive coordinator. He got canned. It just felt like the Texans didn't. It's very similar to how I feel with how the Patriots are doing things right now, where the Texans, they didn't want to go out and waste 2 to 3 years with a head coach they weren't positive that was going to really help this team. And then they finally found the perfect guy for them in DeMeco Ryans, and it worked out for them. And I feel like that's the same way the Patriots are treating this situation right now. And so, honestly, I'm happy about that. With the staff that we have right now, with considering we have what it looks like our future quarterback, our future star quarterback in Drake May, got to get this staff out of there, and you got to start new. I guess I'm just going to segue into the next part that I'm getting on. Who should be the next head coach for the Patriots? And I think this is pretty obvious, and I know a lot of people are kind of throwing the name around for the Patriots, but I think Mike Vrabel is the best guy to lead the Patriots out of this rebuild per se. Obviously, Mike Vrabel has ties with the Patriots. He has played for them. I mean, I just remember him because they used him in goal line sets with in the 2000s, and he caught like 3, 4, 5 touchdown passes. And like these goal line fade situations, considering Mike Vrabel's a linebacker. But I believe Mike Vrabel is also in the Patriots Hall of Fame, so that doesn't really matter. I guess it does matter, but like obviously he has very strong ties to the Patriots, and just the fit makes sense. Vrabel did an amazing job when he was with Tennessee. Obviously, he is a defensive-minded head coach, but the big thing about Vrabel is he's a player's coach. Players absolutely love this dude. Like I was seeing reports on from GPA who I follow on Twitter, was saying that a lot of players on the Patriots kind of lost. Like there wasn't a lot of trust going on with Jarod Mayo. According to JPA, players were beginning to lose faith in former head coach Jarod Mayo as the season progressed, and this was per Mike Giardi, who is a Patriots beat writer. One vet told me, "I lost faith. We were headed in the right direction." When? In the spring. So, like, yeah, honestly, like those reports after this firing, like, I don't know, that I'm just kind of just adding on to, I guess, burying Jarod Mayo. But regardless, yeah, the Patriots just need this head coach to come in, motivate the locker room, just basically be a team-building guy, similarly to a guy like Dan Campbell, and Mike Vrabel's pretty similar to that as well. Just the only concern that I have for Mike Vrabel being the head coach is who he's going to bring in as the offensive coordinator. Obviously, as a defensive-minded head coach. Yeah, it's just really curious to see who, if he does get hired, who he will bring in as his offensive coordinator. Obviously, when he was in Tennessee, his offensive coordinator was Arthur Smith, who I think Arthur Smith, as much as he gets roasted, as much as I've roasted him in the past with the Atlanta Falcons and just a lot of the decisions he has made, he's great when it comes to constructing an offense, but I wouldn't say he never, I guess in fairness to Arthur Smith, never really had a chance to develop a quarterback. I guess Marcus Mariota, but was that one of the first years that Vrabel was head coach when they moved on to Tannehill. But regardless, I guess Mariota was their chance, but I wouldn't consider that like a prime like thing, but I'm kind of just rambling at this point. But yeah, point being, Vrabel hasn't had to deal with a young quarterback like this, and he hasn't had an offensive coordinator that can handle a quarterback's coach like this. But I still trust him at the end of the day. Like, besides Ben Johnson, I feel like that's the fit for the Patriots. I would say another name out there that people are saying is Ben Johnson, and obviously any single team that is looking for a head coach right now would love Ben Johnson. He's probably the most coveted potential head coach out there right now. Obviously, it would be a pipe dream to get this guy because what he's been doing with the Lions and just like, yeah, the dude is just awesome when it comes to just scheming up things. Basically revitalized Jared Goff's career and just the perception that he has right now. So that would be great, but I feel like for Ben Johnson, I think the Bears would be the best option. Just pairing him up with Caleb Williams, that just makes the most sense. But I can also see him going out of the division just because he doesn't want to deal with the Lions. But I don't know. We'll kind of see how that goes. But honestly, Ben Johnson could probably even stay with the Lions and just still wait on the perfect head coaching job for him. So I don't know. Ben Johnson's a wild card because we all thought he was going to go to the Commanders, and that didn't end up happening. But like as a wild card, Brian Flores could also make sense. Obviously, he was a former defensive coordinator for the Patriots. That was when they won the Super Bowl against the Los Angeles Rams. I've always liked Brian Flores, even when he was with the Miami Dolphins. I feel like he kind of got canned a little bit early, but he wasn't a bad head coach. Like, there wasn't really anything glaringly which had fans, saying that he should have got fired. But I think a lot of behind the scenes things, I know that there were reports with him and his connection with Tua and everything like that, which honestly, now that I'm kind of thinking about this and kind of hearing the reports he had with Tua, it wouldn't work the best with a guy like Drake May. But obviously Flores has ties with the Patriots. Obviously, he's a great defensive coordinator. He's doing wonders with the Minnesota Vikings right now with their defense. With a defense that went from one of the worst defenses in the NFL. That year they made the playoffs. They lost to the Giants in the wild card. They were one of the worst defenses in the NFL with an offense that was carrying them. And now the past 2 years that Flores has been the defensive coordinator, that defense is night and day, so much better. I mean, yeah, it would make sense just considering he has ties with the Patriots, but just the offensive concerns and just like as much as he's been a good defensive coordinator, would it make sense to have another chance of him being a head coach and, risking that possibility? Because we have already seen him as a head coach and just his relationship with his quarterback. So there's a likely possibility that it won't work out, but I don't think he'll be the option. I think with Flores, a team like Jacksonville would make a lot of sense. Jacksonville's defense has been god awful. Yeah, I think a team like the Jaguars would need a defensive minded head coach. They kind of already have it figured out with quarterback, although Trevor Lawrence hasn't. It hasn't been a great season for him, but I think the concerns more so come into the defensive coordinator or defensive side. And now with Brian Flores working with guys like Kevin O'Connell, he can bring over guys that are affiliated with the Vikings staff. I don't know exactly some guys like that. Like, honestly, Josh McCown, who I believe is the quarterback's coach with the Vikings right now, he could step in and be offensive coordinator in the event that Flores does become a head coach somewhere. So, I think Flores can end up working out. Other names out there that I'm kind of just thinking, honestly, I'm kind of just creating this segment into more so potential head coaches that are out there right now that teams can get. I don't know off the top of my head. Like, honestly, those three are just kind of just names that I would like to see with the Patriots. I don't know. That could be another video for another day, which I'll probably do because it's now head coaching season, which is one of my favorite times of the NFL season because you have playoffs going around and you also have these rebuilding teams basically already rebuilding by getting their new head coaches. So it's honestly a great time. So I'll definitely make predictions for that. But that's kind of just another thing that I wanted to add to the podcast before I actually uploaded it.